Welcome to the New York Outlook for Wednesday, 20th of December 2023. Starting off with the economic calendar, as you can see, we had negative CPI news, essentially meaning that we could only short GBP and not long it, as per our technical analysis bias that I outlined in the London Outlook, which then leaves us with New York red folder news being our only option for potentially getting into a long position for today. This news will have to be negative for the USD to then support a 5-minute New York base low of the day trade. And the reason why I'm saying this is because if you recall from our London Outlook, our only options was to actually long based on the current 4H narrative. The pro-trend primary leg validated on the 4H essentially confirmed to us that we could trade long. Remember, the pullback phase at no point was validated, and thus there wasn't scope for any shorts. Thus, when we go into the 15-minute, what you can see is this large sell candle is due to the GBP negative CPI, and GBP sold off quite GU sold off quite aggressively as anticipated based on the news release. However, given the fact that we can't short and our only options are to long based on the 4H narrative, we have to consider the fact that our only option being for longing for today in particular is that we actually get a negative USD news release to then support a New York base low of the day. I do want to just highlight the current London range, which is something like that. So essentially, New York will need to put in a low of the day below this London range, and then on the 5-minute we'll go in and look for our change of character to essentially tell us that order flow is starting to shift and building that secondary leg to then enable us to trade long to the upside in line with this 4H bias. Yeah, I think it's quite a short outlook for today. There isn't much to say other than waiting for the news release and then acting accordingly. Obviously, if it's positive for the USD, then we can anticipate that price will move down further and that our daily direction was more than likely incorrect. Oh, the other thing I did want to touch on is the fact that we have this 4H validated primary leg. So if you recall from the London Outlook, I essentially said that any POI is valid to trade within this, provided that it aligns to one of our fib levels, and our fib levels is not anchored to anything prior to the previous high and low of the day, i.e. the maximum we can go back is the previous day. So if we look at today's situation, essentially our only option for actually trading would be finding a POI in this leg. However, because now we're in a situation where we have to wait for the New York news, or if we also find ourselves in a situation where the POI doesn't necessarily align with the fib on the 15-minute, we can then go on the 5-minute and perhaps validate a secondary leg from one of these OBs. The only other option is for you to actually wait for the pro-trend primary leg to reset and then restart a new pro-trend primary leg. And the reason why I'm saying this is a bit of a controversial scenario to be in is that this pro-trend primary leg isn't actually invalidated. So what is essentially happening here to the right is more than likely building liquidity based on the assumption that the 4H narrative doesn't actually support shorts. So maybe price will weak this low and then we'll actually get to build a new pro-trend leg. Building a secondary leg is on the basis that the pro-trend primary leg OBs are not valid because something has changed and validated shorts. In this case, there is nothing to validate shorts, which makes it somewhat difficult to actually go and then validate a secondary leg. But yeah, I think it's something to think about. It's definitely something I will think about some more as well. Um, but yeah, that's the New York outlook. Trade safely, and we'll chat in the end of day review.